American economic and cultural systems. That's capitalism. They can sell you things, they can get you lots of goodies, they can do this, but none of that answers. And in fact, it works actively against, as he says, helping us help each other know how to live and be happy. There are whole other parts of me that don't get nourished. When you're just on the dopamine treadmill, just on the social media, just on the capitalist grind, buying new stuff, toys, things like that, but you neglect that wholesome, perhaps more spiritual aspect.
When you walk into most public spaces in America, it isn't quiet anymore. They pipe music through.
Oh my God, can we talk about that? Yes, everywhere there is some kind of annoying ass cheesy music commercial. The honestly, what I thought was like the peak example of fucking capitalism, when they installed little display monitors into your gas station pump to play you fucking ads as you are taking gas. I mean, if that's not exactly what he's talking about and capitalism just pushed to the extreme limit, then I do not know what is. He's talking about music filling public spaces. Yeah, that's regular. That's regular. Imagine if he knew about this gas station shit.
It seems significant that we don't want things to be quiet ever anymore.
Facts.
And to me, I don't know that I could defend it, but that seems to me to have something to do with when you feel like the purpose of your life is to gratify yourself and get things for yourself and go all the time. There's this other part of you that's the same part that can kind of is almost hungry for silence and quiet.
Yes.
And thinking really hard about the same thing for maybe half an hour instead of 30 seconds that doesn't get fed at all.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. There's a part of us that's hungry for silence and solitude. I'm reminded of this quote by Montaigne where I forget exactly what he was talking about, but you can have overstimulation, and it's the analogy he makes is when you irrigate a plant too much, right? A plant needs water, but if you fill it too much, it becomes flooded and it becomes detrimental to the lamp. Or if you put too much oil, not a lamp, sorry, I was going to the plant, and then I was saying if you put too much oil in a lamp, that also drowns out the flame. So you need a period to just let that water soak through in the analogy of the plant. But that's what we absolutely do not have. We do not get a minute of silence, and we come to, it's almost like, I don't know what it is. That's what I mean by sometimes it almost feels like they're hijacking our biology, because even if there is that part that's hungry for you, that the dopamine lizard brain of you will just keep going back to the lights and the colors and the noise. So, but I agree. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier, this idea of a spiritual nourishment, a spiritual sustenance. If you don't feed that part of yourself ever, it is going to, you end up, like he said, all his friends commit suicide. There's increasing rates of depression, anxiety, mental disorders. And that's a Jungian idea too, as well. Like if you're not giving sustenance to what is a fundamental part of your psychology, it's going to have effects. And this is, I think, all the ailments and maladies of modern society. Those are the effects of not feeding what David Foster Wallace here is talking about, that spiritual essence of ourselves. Because if you're surrounded by distractions, I think this is something that the olden days had over us, is they weren't just immersed. I mean, you know what? Actually, come to think about it, because we were talking about this earlier, the commencement speech he gave, this is water, and he gives the parable of the fish, and it's like, the water is nice today, and then the fish is like, what's water? For us, modern society, we are the fish that are steeped in the water, which is just these hyper stimulation, this hyper capitalism. And to escape it, it takes a lot more effort today, I would say, than it does back then. And I think that's what he's talking about. That's why it's so hard to sit down, appreciate a work of art, read a book, listen to something that lasts an hour, because those things are effortful, psychologically, intellectually. And that's something we've come to, our brains are conditioned. I mean, that's even what I'm talking about with like the iPad baby stuff. Like your brain will almost literally be conditioned to think in terms of, like 30-second fucking shorts and reels and TikToks. And so you try and put them in front of a classic novel, even if it's nothing crazy, that shit ain't happening. If you're somebody who is just constantly living like that, constantly consuming, every waking moment you have, you're distracting yourself. You can't be, there's no way you're happy. Like Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. And you don't even have to get all philosophical, but you got to at least live your life.